Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the GSM's Pride Spotlight. I have my camera guy back. It's Zack.
Hey!
We just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an update what's going on with Zack specifically. Not necessarily inside work, outside work, inside work, whatever's going on. So welcome back, Zack.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's so weird being on this side. Now you don't just hear me yelling from the background.
I was going to say, all we usually get is you're yelling and laughing in the background,
exactly.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, one of these days I'll shut up from behind the camera, but that's not today.
So what's going on with you?
Oh, goodness. Lots of stuff, man. Soccer just kicked back up, which nobody knows me outside of you, but soccer is a huge part of my life.
Yep.
So I am a part of quite a few different soccer organizations, but I for the most part, do the drums for the local St. Louis soccer teams, whatever that team ends up being.
So we've got the St. Louis City SC coming.
SC, yes. So
now we've got number 2 playing right now, right?
Exactly, yeah. So for 6 years I did St. Louis FC, which was our USL Pro team, and then that team went away when MLS came to town, and we don't have the full MLS team yet, so we are on to the St. Louis City 2, which is the not really kids, because a lot of these guys are 24,
well,
25.
Aren't they more of like a feeder or I guess trial basis for the Premier League?
Yeah, for the Premier League.
For the MLS anyway.
Yeah, so a lot of people are familiar with Major League Baseball system. So this, in a way, is very much like the farm system for that, which in soccer, even in the U.S. for the longest time, that really hasn't existed, and especially in England, that doesn't. There are 2 teams, but for the most part, if you're developing a player, you send them off to some other team to learn to play, and then they come back and they play for you, or you sell them on. And MLS is going for this kind of farm team system. So,
which I think is a really good idea.
It's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I tend to not try and give MLS credit for anything, just because I don't enjoy the organization. But I think this team has been a lot of fun to watch, and I will support anything St. Louis. So,
why do you feel the MLS is not? Is it because it's very political? Or?
No, it's because it's centralized. So theoretically, every team belongs to MLS. Like every team is a franchise of MLS. And so you have a team, and I was actually just reading about this yesterday, in San Jose. So San Jose has a team, the Sharks or Earthquake or whatever they are for whatever. But they've basically given up. In the second week of the MLS thing, they have a coach that doesn't want to coach for them, but they don't want to pay his exit fee to leave. They have players that don't want to play for them, but they aren't going to get rid of them, and they're not going out and buying new people. So essentially what San Jose has done is said, yeah, we're good losing this year, and just given up, and they're 2 weeks into the MLS season. And that doesn't happen in England, because if you did that, you would get relegated. Yeah. And there's a consequence for doing that. Financially, and just for your fans and all that kind of stuff. But in this market and in the way that the U.S. has chosen to run the top level of the sport, which is MLS, there is no consequence for a team that decides they just don't want to invest in their team. So there's no outside influence that makes somebody have to invest in it. And so you take MLS, which has all these different roster rules, and you can spend this amount of money, but you have to spend this amount of money, versus like USL or any team in England, where you can essentially spend as much as you want. You just have to figure out how to pay the bills at the end of the day.
And run it like a business.
And we run it like a business. And so MLS is a McDonald's, where they own the central assets, and then individual owners run that part of the business. And it's not my favorite way of doing a system, because in the long run, the fans lose. Like, the only people that lose in that are the fans. The owners continue to make money because they get paid out of that same pool that all 32 teams get paid out of. So,
and you essentially lose some of the competitiveness, because like you said, San Jose is still getting paid as much as, let's say, LAFC, and it's down to personal preference whether you want to go for the league or not.
Exactly, because they're not making as much year over year. LAFC will make more in tickets and all that, but in the general equity of the league, San Jose is getting just as much as everyone else, doing nothing to drive it forward. And so that it's kind of like a car dealership where nobody has any incentive to sell cars. We wouldn't be a very good car dealership if nobody had any incentive to go out and do the job.
Let me ask your opinion on something, because I know you're very in depth in this, but do you ever see that changing?
No. So the reason I like USL, which was our league before, is because USL is trying to implement in itself promotion relegation. So USL has 3 different divisions, not like MLS is doing with the farm team system. Every one of those teams are independent, and they have the ability. Eventually, they're trying to align with the European market, so they're trying to basically do a European soccer schedule, which for those of you who don't know is like August to May.
Yeah, basically, usually the first week of August, and then depending on how far you get, the last game's in May, which will be the Champions League final usually.
So then you have the US schedule, which starts in February and goes until October. So almost mirroring baseball. So it's a very different than the rest of the world.
Isn't that though because of weather and stuff like that?
It is, yeah. But there are leagues that take, like Germany takes a winter break, I think. There are leagues that
Every league's going to take a winter break this year.
Well, exactly. So, there are ways of working around it, but I guess my main point is that USL they're building the bones to build promotion relegation inside of their own system. So I think it might happen in the U.S., but I don't think it will ever happen on the top league of American soccer because the money doesn't make sense for the people who have already invested in it.
But wouldn't it become to a point where if they had too many teams that wanted to expand into the MLS, they would have no choice because you couldn't have 40 teams in the league?
You would think that. You would. What MLS, in my opinion, would do then is just break East-West like MLB or anybody else already does, and allows everybody to have 20 teams in each division
and then play off into the cup final. Yeah.
And so, but that happens in MLS currently because there are 32 teams, and you play some teams 3 times and other teams 1 time. Well, that doesn't tell you who's the best in the league. Like the league trophy in that sense makes absolutely no sense because if you play San Jose 3 times, if you're in California and you play San Jose 3 times versus somebody else who's playing on the East Coast where all those teams theoretically give a you don't have
the competitive.
Exactly. It's not apples.
It's really based upon the schedule rather than the actual competition.
Exactly. So then you have in England every team plays every other team twice. So you have home and away. It's equal footing. Every team is equal. It's just not that way here. So, sorry if you came here to talk about cars and we're talking soccer, but that anything that isn't me running a camera 90% of my life is thinking about soccer and why promotion.
So let's move on to a positive side. So what's going on with the Looligans?
So Looligans are doing some cool stuff. So for those who haven't been around, St. Louis has had a bunch of different soccer teams, and they've all failed. But we've had a group of supporters who have been around for 12 years, and they've supported different levels of soccer through all different, through the lowest level of soccer in St. Louis all the way up to MLS. And we are on year 12. They've totally rebranded for, city. There's a bunch of kind of splinter groups that have come off of that group. Not that we're breaking apart, but we have a group called the Thieves now, which is specifically for LGBT and just marginalized communities, people who don't get represented well in larger soccer fandom.
And they're trying to bring that into it.
Exactly. Because if you go to a soccer game now, it's a bunch of white guys, and that doesn't really represent St. Louis, white guys and girls, but it doesn't really represent what St. Louis looks like as a whole, and we're trying to very much push to look more like what St. Louis looks like. We have a really fun group called No Nap City Ultras, which are just parents that their motto is 90 minutes if we're lucky, because if you have children, you may or may not see 90 minutes.
Maybe I need to jump into
right,
that group.
It's hysterical. The group name is hysterical. We've got another group called STL Santos, again, a former Looligan trying to kind of reach out to Hispanic communities and those types of things. And then the group that I run, which is the Drum focused section. So we do drums and instruments. My podcast is called Show Up, Make Noise. But
check it out. We'll put a link in.
Yeah, we'll put a link in. Show Up, Make Noise is my podcast. We talk about all things soccer and supporter culture, and specifically drums and chants and those types of things. But we are actually, that group will have a different name. We're voting on it currently. So you get the hot scoop that there is a new name coming. And most anybody who pays attention to soccer knows that. But we are trying to find a name right now. Yeah. So it's exciting stuff.
And you got a potential game next Wednesday?
Yes. So the big rivalry from St. Louis FC was always Louisville City because they came into the league at the same time as us. They are still in the league.
And they're pretty close.
And they're pretty close. And they're very good. Louisville City is the antithesis of what St. Louis was. St. Louis was always huge support, terrible team. And now St. Louis is a really good team, and we're trying to build that support back up. We're going down to Louisville. It was always called the King's Cup because St. Louis and Louisville, both named after King Louis, so we called it the King's Cup. Though it is happening on 4/20, so I've suggested we call it the King's Bowl. Hasn't gotten a lot of traction, but we're going to see how it goes.
Kickoff.
7 o'clock. Yeah, right, 4:20. 7 o'clock, I think. That will actually be streamed on U.S. Open Cup. So if you are a St. Louis fan, if you're in the St. Louis area and you just want to watch and see what happens, their stadium in Louisville is gorgeous. They just built a new soccer-specific stadium there, similar to what's being built downtown, but they built it for a USL side. I think it's like 15,000 people, but it is a just absolutely gorgeous stadium out there. Awesome. So very excited. I am probably going to be there. I will probably be banging a drum because that's the only way I understand how to watch the sport. Also, why I don't get every other sport. Like if you go to a baseball game and everyone just sits there quietly, Zack doesn't know what to do because Zack is never sitting anywhere quietly.
You sit on your lap.
I am. Like anytime there's music, I start singing along because that's how I've been geared to sport. But that's why I like soccer. Soccer is not, to me, is not a sit and watch sport. It is a participatory, we're all trying to push our team forward. And you get a little bit of that in the NFL and those types of things. But soccer has a coordinated group of people trying to push everything forward. Yeah. So that is, yeah.
So let's move on from soccer a little bit. What about work outside work? You got any camera stuff coming up?
Not really. I went and got my beard trimmed the other day, and that guy wanted me to do a video for him. So yeah, I try to do a lot of charity type stuff. Honestly, my goal outside of work is to do as much charity work as possible because I feel like I'm privileged to be able to do what I do and get paid to do what I do. So I feel like taking whatever I can do with that and try and give back to other people.
There we are, another plug. If someone's out there looking for some charity work.
There you go, yeah. I've done work with St. Louis Crisis Nursery. I built a video for St. Louis Crisis Nursery. I've built charity videos for Luligan and stuff. So if you're looking for somebody to come out and do free or cheap work, let me know because I will come out and build a video for you.
And I will give him credit. It's pretty good stuff.
I like doing it. And depending, it's all based on how much, you access we can get and those types of things. But yeah, I enjoy, and a lot of the soccer, so going back to the Luligans and what we're trying to do, everything we do is St. Louis community focused. So we've raised $250,000 for charities in the last 6 years through the Luligans. So a lot of our soccer supporter groups are also, the Luligans are legitimately a 501c3 or whatever the actual nonprofit thing is, because we give so much money to charity. Whatever our drum group becomes, we'll have a focus on charity. We believe in getting out and doing things in the community. So yeah, so again, if you just have a group that you want, that you need volunteers for, I'm pretty good at rallying people. So if you need hands for anything, I will try and get you hands.
So what about inside work? Everything going good?
Yeah, man, we're rocking and rolling. We got this stuff going. We've got salesmen getting testimonials. Those are going really well. I got a Bronco video out the other day. I haven't made an actual car video in a long time because we haven't had a car in so long. I was so used to when we worked at Mazda together, I could just walk out and grab a Mazda 6 and go out and shoot it, and I could take it to the car wash and do all those things myself. And this dealership is very different in the sense that we don't have our own car wash. We're just and we don't have cars. So being a guy,
that's not because of the dealership. That's because the
no, that's just. But it is like just when I came into this dealership, like specifically, I came in dead center in the middle of COVID. So like I came here when we had no cars and we still have no cars, and it doesn't make my job hard. It just makes my job confusing sometimes because I want to do, I want to make a video on a car, but by the time I've gotten my camera together to get the video out, we've sold that car and somebody's driven away with it. And I'm like, I was gone for 5 minutes. And you're like, yeah, you should have been faster.
Yeah.
So it's a very odd time for doing what I do. I love my job and I like doing it. It's a very weird time to try and do anything in this business.
And that's kind of the things that we've been talking to even about with the GSM's Pride is getting content right now is tough because what our content is automotive, and we don't have the automotive.
Yeah, we don't have cars. We don't have, and just people in general are also different now. Like, and I feel like before the pandemic, you could walk up to anybody and be like, hey, I'm going to capture a little bit of B-roll of this, that, and the other thing. And 90% of the time, people were like totally fine. And I feel like now everybody's a little bit more guarded. That staying alone for 2 years has made everybody a little bit more guarded and a little bit less wanting to get involved in things. So it's a different world, even in the 6 years I've been doing this. So
what about aspirations for the future? We got anything coming up?
Oh goodness, yeah. I want to become president of the world. No, I don't, man. I want to continue to do fun, cool things and build community stuff. And I like here because we are a community, we are kind of a family, and we have that community focus. We do stuff with Lafayette. We do stuff with charities and those types of things. If I call you up and I'm like, hey, I need $200 to get this charity thing, Fusz Ford has the ability to help us out with those things because we are community focused.
Well, actually, let me touch on something. This is kind of just a side conversation, but hey, we'll put it on camera. Ashley mentioned to me today about stray rescue.
Yeah.
Does Subaru do that, or is that open?
I think Subaru does it, but I don't think it's necessarily they.
Well, the reason being is I just happened to come across they have 200,000 followers on their Facebook page.
Oh yeah.
And it might be something that we maybe want to do for us. I know Ford isn't really the dog kind of theme, but if we just do sponsor their spay and neuter every year or whatever, I think that could be a good avenue for us to help out the community.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can sponsor, if we could have an adoption drive or any of those types of things. I know we have weird rules for us and dogs on our property. But yeah, I mean, those types of things, anything that can get community focus, I'm here for. And it's just, that's kind of my
well, the good thing is the summer's coming up and we'll be able to do with a lot more stuff outside and stuff.
Absolutely.
It's been just quiet because
the
rules for indoors.
Again, everything's weird, but I think as summer starts coming, we're gonna start really rocking and rolling and getting people outside.
And one thing I did want to touch on, Zack and I have been contemplating doing like a podcast for the Fusz network as a whole. Put down in the comments if you think that's a good idea, because we might jump onto that at some point. I've got a podcast coming up with a different organization later on, but it's something that we've been thinking about lately. So maybe we'll.
I think it'd be good. I think anything where we can get more expert level content out is going to be good. And I think the podcast is nice because, again, people sometimes don't like coming on camera, but getting somebody to sit down and talk to you is kind of a different level. So.
Well, that's all I got. We got a little bit of a catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. Else? Yeah, I think I bored all of your all of your.
Well, hopefully we expand our horizons. Now we have all these soccer guys.
There we go.
Watching.
Yeah, come on. So next game, April 24th. Come on out. The Hooligans usually tailgate 2 hours before on top of a parking garage. So
you can't miss them. There's flags and drums. It's loud.
Yeah. We are. It's me specifically. I am always on a drum, so you will always be able to find me. 1, I'm the loudest person in the room, but 2, I'm always on a drum. So then, equally, then that much louder.
Just look for his hat. You can't miss it.
This is the only time I don't have to turn the guest way up and the host way down.
Well, as always, over at Fusz Ford, we can replace the car, not the customer, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.